I will do something different today. And instead of starting with a standard hydrometric, I will start with a different template, which is already set with the 3 pages. And as you can see here in the paper space, I have 3 paper space. So basically, I will draw today a small power unit diagram. I will put the power unit in the left. I will draw a small NG6 4-position module in the center and the part list in the third. At the end, I will show you how to read the information from an Excel file to bring in pricing information and assembly cost for the components in the schematic in order to generate a quotation directly from a diagram. So let me start. I load on the left my symbol library. And as you may know, you can control how the Library Explorer and Property Manager behave at the startup of the software just by going in the options. And under miscellaneous, you find these 2 tabs, which I'm highlighting here, Library Explorer and Property Manager. When you uncheck them, it means that Library Explorer and Property Manager will not be loaded at startup. This will make normally HyDraw CAD startup being faster, depending on where the library is located in your environment. So I start now from subsystem. During one of the webinars we made recently, I showed how to create subsystems. Of course, when you have a diagram made with HyDraw CAD, you can always copy and paste and do things like that. I like to start with the subsystems because it means that I was able to store interesting part of diagrams in my library, and I am able to take them and I just place them exploded. I put a reservoir. So in this case, that's my standard module. It's a reservoir with some model code information and manufacturer and volume. And also the shutoff valve is a piston shutoff valve. We have a breather filter, and we have also a site level gauge. So the advantage of subsystem is that really you can frame a part of a diagram also with model data information and store in the library for future use. So it will make easier to build the new diagrams. At the same time, I will bring a pump group. And as you can see, I have different circuits here. I will take just a simple one and bring it here. So in this case, I have an electric motor, I have a bell housing with model data, I have also a hub, and I have a pump and a strainer. Now let me search. So I stop for a moment with subsystems, but you understand the power of using subsystem. So really you can put together the frame of a diagram very, very efficiently. I go back to my symbol library, and now I go directly by searching for component. Let's say that I access to my Fluid Power Tools library, and I need to put a small manifold in front of my pump that will have a check valve, a relief valve, and maybe a unloading valve. So I will search directly a WS10Z HIDA component, and I can find my component, and I can double click and place my symbol in the drawing. So we have possibility to find components by model code, and we have possibility to search directly by component type. So let's say I need a check valve, I need a skewing cartridge valve, and I need a skewing cartridge at least for 20 liters per minute. And as you can see here, when you select and filter by different component types, there are some attributes, some filtering that show up. So now we can filter by cracking pressure, by rated flow, by rated pressure, by type. So depending on which component type you select, these options may change according to the settings that you have in the library. Now I just click search, And maybe instead of searching for all manufacturer, let me do just HYDRA force and search. And now I will have a list of a check valve from HYDRA force, and I take the CV10-20, and with a double click, I can place my check valve directly here. I also want a relief valve, and I reset. Maybe I keep selecting all manufacturer. Yes, that's fine. I want RV10-20 and search. Double click and place in my drawing. I want to flip my diagram and flip it vertically, and that is fine. Let's start making some connection lines. So ideally, I will make a pressure going from my pump to my check valve. And then I will go enter to repeat last command, and I go from 2 somewhere here, and then I will break my line and go into the second sheet. And then I make another connection of pressure line, enter from the inlet of the relief valve. I'm going directly here, and then enter from here to here. And then let me make some tank line going from here, and let me make a unique tank. Let me group all these items into a single manifold. Well, let me arrange a bit this information. So this one is going here, the item ID. If we don't want to display the cavity name, we can control directly on the display setting for that selected component. So we can switch them off. And we can do also that massively. So under the system tab, we have this command, port property, that will work on a selection of symbols. We press enter to confirm the selection, and we can switch off or on several attributes. Let's remove the cavity, and so as you can see, the cavity disappeared from all the other components. And now I also wanted to hide the port names. I don't need in this diagram, so I want to port names, select these items, and down here on the command line, let me highlight it a bit more here. We can select show or hide. So I want to hide. And now, as you can see, all the port names have disappeared for the selected symbols in the diagram. Now, those items belong to a manifold. So in the circuit, I find the envelope, and I can just sketch an envelope, a rectangle that is crossing connection line. And whenever the rectangle is crossing connection line, it will break into external port. So a behavior of HyDraw CAD is that if the connection line that is broken by the envelope is not connected to anything, HyDraw will remove that connection line segment. So as you can see, this segment from the pump to the port stayed where it is, but I lost the other segment. So let me create again the other segment. And let me make a tank line going from the tank directly to the reservoir. And actually, I realized that I may need another tank port coming there. So I can go to the external ports and select a tank port, which I may size by flow. Let's say I need a 30 liter per minute SA flange. And HyDraw CAD is recommending me 1/2 inch code 61 because I didn't specify any pressure. And if you change pressure, let's say 300 bar, HyDraw CAD will recommend a code 62. But in this case, that's a return line. And really, I don't need pressure. And I can just double click and place my flange here in the drawing. I can connect and create a tank line going somewhere here. And I can connect my tank line, maybe going here. If you don't like the way the connection line is made, we can use the stretch connection on up here. We can select the segment that we want to stretch, and we can move the segment where we want. Normally, when I make connection lines, I don't use the automatic mode. So as you can see on the top left, we have auto connect. If you switch it off, then it means that the connection line that you select, in this case a reservoir line, you go from the start point and you click, 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 and then you can finish the connection on another connection or on another port. So normally I work more efficiently in this way by selecting, by using the non-auto connect mode. So you switch between auto connect and non-auto connect just by clicking here on this command. I need to rename some ports, so the port name is P1. This port is P, and this port is T1. We want to size, and let's say that we want to keep consistent flange between the T tank and T1. So there is a smart command called copy. When we run copy, we can select the source port at the destination port. We press enter for confirmation. And from this dialog, we can select whichever property attribute we want to copy. In this case, I want to copy everything. So we can click OK, and now those two flanges become identical. The same I do here. I size this port. So if you remember, when I placed the tank port, I have selected the size and placed the symbol in the drawing. So in this case, the port has come in the diagram directly with the size. But when you create an envelope, the envelope is creating a standard port without a naming, just a question mark, and I did already change the name, and also without size. So in this case, I select this port, and if you want to size a port that is already in the diagram, you don't use the Library Explorer, you use the Property Manager. So any change we do on a component in the diagram is done on the Property Manager. So to configure the port, we use this command, that is select from library. It is showing a similar dialog as it was embedded on the right for the port selection. And again, here we can select the type of port and the size. So let's say alpha and inch code 62 is enough. And again, like I did before, I do copy P1 and to P, copying everything. Let me clean up a bit the drawing, and let me save this diagram. This is another interesting aspect of HyDraw CAD. As you can see on the left, we have standard folders. So you can remove whatever you don't need here. Maybe documents is not needed. And now I move to my design folder, which I put somewhere in my 2020 webinar. I have HyDraw CAD December. So this is my working folder. So I want to right click here and add current folder. So in this case, I'm creating in my environment a very quick shortcut to my design folder. This will save you a lot of time in navigating through a folder. So if you are working on a project, then why not storing here the project part? And that's my circuit. And save. As you can see here, if we move to the paper space power unit, we can see our first part of the diagram already in a preview with the colors, because I'm using a plot style with colors. And later we will publish a PDF from this diagram. Let's go back to the model space. And I want to add some jumping reference, because I will move to the second page. So to add the jumping reference, we use this command. There are some settings in HyDraw options regarding jumping reference. So if we go to the options, connection lines, this is where we find the settings. And normally I switch everything off, because I don't like to specify the circuit type. I don't need, it's always hydraulics for me. I don't want to specify grid, and auto insert means that if a connection line is left not connected to anything in the diagram, HyDraw will ask you to generate a jumping reference. So this is my standard setting, and I recommend you use the same in your application. Let me clean up. So when we want to create a jumping reference, we click jumping reference. This one, we can give a name, let's say T1, and the destination sheet will be the sheet number 2. At the same time, we do the same here. The jumping reference is P1 and the destination sheet is always 2. We'll create a similar jumping reference on the second page. Now let's move to the second page. And I get back to do it quickly. I get back to my subsystems. And I have some stack modules, NG6. I have a standard sandwich module with 4 position. I select my subplate. I see that it has no model data attached to it. So I want to select from library. Like I did for the ports, we can, when we have a symbol in the drawing, we can search if there are components attached to it. So we can click here and we can search in the corporate database or in Fluid Power Tools. Now I am searching in the corporate database. That's a component I have in my library. I find a Eurofluid subplate and OK. And this is attaching the information, and also the port size is displayed along with the component. Let's say that I want this valve here. I can go, and now I search online, fluidpowertools.com, and in this case, it is finding for that component several manufacturers. Let's say I need a Parker valve, and if we want, we can open a datasheet to check if this is the correct component we have. The same link of datasheet we have seen in the Library Manager webinar we did a few weeks ago. So I can select this and click OK. And as you can see, now this component becomes my Parker ZRD component. Since there are 4 identical components, I can use the same copy from this source to all my destination symbols and press Enter. I want to copy all, also the documents, and I click OK. Pay attention when you use copy between symbols because there is no control over which attributes you are copying. You decide what you want to copy. So you could technically copy this one to a directional control valve. And now this directional control valve becomes a ZRD Parker, which is not correct. So pay attention, copy is a powerful command. It saves you time with copying what you want. And the purpose may be, I want to copy a flow rate or a cavity between different components in the diagram, but it can also be dangerous if not used properly. Instead of selecting these components, I just delete and I go back to the search of components. And let's say that I need a replacement for some Bosch Rexroth valves. So I need A and B2 tank center position, three position direction control valve, and the model code is 4W6J for Bosch Rexroth. And I can search, but I need a replacement from Parker. So I can right click and show link the models. And I have a list of several manufacturers compatible with that symbol. That means attached to the same symbol, we have a different equivalent valve. Maybe they can be different size because the symbol is applicable also to an NG10 valve. But in this case, I want to filter only for Parker. And I want this symbol, and I want a D1VW whatsoever. So double click and place my component in the drawing. Since we are in the drawing space, we could insert again, or we can just right click, copy, and from the start, and we can do all the copies. When you copy symbol in the drawing, remember at the end, press enter. So when you press enter, you will finish the command and I will automatically increase the ID, 19.1, 19.2, 19.3, and 19.4. If you don't press enter, you press escape, then the balloons will not be generated and also the item ID will not be increased by 1. Of course, we can always renumber items if we don't like the numbering scheme that is in the diagram. So maybe in this case, we want to renumber all the subplate because also the flow control valve are not grouped 17, 16, 15. We don't like it. So we can say, go to the System tab. We can use the item ID command, selecting the part of diagram that we want to renumber and press Enter. And we want to start from 1. Now, as you can see, there are several options here. And let me spend a few seconds here. So we can start numbering from 1, and maybe we could say from 100, from 200, or let's keep 1. Now, since I'm working with 2 pages, and there will be a third with the part list, let me use the assembly ID, which is here, to specify assembly ID 2 for this page 2 and 1 for the page 1. So later I will renumber also items in the page 1. So now I want to start from 1 with assembly ID 2. As you can see here, there is an option, reassign only assembly ID. So if you don't want to change the numbering of the components, but you want also to specify an assembly ID to what you are selecting, you just need to check the reassign only assembly ID. I can click OK. So now the grouping makes more sense. Item 1, 2.1, 3.1, 2.2, 3.2. The numbering is made left to the right. And if we select a component, we can see on the top right that there is an assembly ID, item 2. So this will make our part list at the end structured. All the items in page 1 will be on top, and then all the items in page 2 will be down in our part list. So we do the same for the first part of the diagram. We do item, and we number everything, starting from 1. Let me clean up. And the assembly ID is always now 1, not 2. In this case, the assembly ID is not visible. That's okay, that's what we want. There could be cases where you want to display the assembly ID together with a component. The options to control the assembly ID visibility is in the options, and it is these options here. I'm not going to use now, but it is this one, assembly ID. If you check it, and if your template has this checked, then it means that wherever you add an assembly ID, the assembly ID will be displayed together with the item ID for that component. Now let me, of course, I missed the jumping reference, so let me add a small segment of tank line. And maybe I put aligned. It's not mandatory to have them aligned, but in this case, I like to have them in the same with the same style. Again, jumping reference, P1 going to destination sheet 1, and enter to repeat the last command, and T2, T1 to destination 1. There cannot be other jumping reference with the same name. So if I create a new jumping reference here called T1 on destination 3, it's not allowed because there is already a pair of identical ID T1. So it will ask for a different name. From one jumping reference with a right click, and you can find the connecting jumping reference. So select, right click, find jumping reference, and it navigates from one part of the drawing to the other where it is connected. In this case, we speak about 2 different sheets when we produce the PDF. But it may be also in the same sheet. So if you have a larger diagram, you may create a jumping reference from one part of the same diagram to another part instead of having long connection line going through the diagram. We are almost set with our diagram. Let me quickly put a cylinder, double acting. Let me insert it here. And let me connect now. We don't connect more from A1 to B1 here. The cylinder is not part of my part list, so I exclude from part list on top here. And the balloon will disappear, and we can select and copy. And we just select the start and end point. And again, we press enter. So that is our diagram. Let me move everything down so that I'm taking better the space. And the cylinder, we may say that the bore is 200 millimeter, the stroke is 1200, and the dot is 64. So the attribute is displayed. And for instance, in this case, copy from this cylinder to all the other cylinders may be used just to copy only the bore, stroke, and rod. And we can move the display format wherever we want in the diagram. Let us make a part list on the third page. So to generate a part list, we just run the part list command. You find it on the System tab. Let me clean up the drawing and show where the command is located. It is here, parts. Shortcut keyboard is using YPA. So if you want to avoid going into the command, you just type YPA from the command line, YPA, enter. That's like the part list command. We select everything, enter. And here we can specify the part list format. As you can see, I have several part list format. I will use my HyDraw default now, and later I will use my quote to generate a quote from this diagram. So with HyDraw default, I just select which items should be included in my diagram. In this case, a subsystem, accessories. I didn't specify any accessories, so this is not relevant now. And I want to group identical items. And there are no child items, so this is not relevant now. And next, I have a preview of my part list. I forgot to put a model code on the manifold, so let me put it. Let's say that's VET 3456, and the manufacturer is Parker. When you type in, so you can type in only when there is an empty field. Otherwise, you cannot edit other fields. You can update the information that you write in to the corresponding components in the diagram. And by clicking yes, the information will go to the corresponding component in the diagram. Now we can insert the part list in the drawing. Let me clean up everything. And that's my part list. If I go back to the configuration of the part list, and I go to the list and charts, as you can see, you can define which styles if you want the header. So in this case, I had unselected yesterday to make a test. So actually, I want the header. And you can control the size of the part list, maybe a description. I want to be it larger, 100 millimeters. And the model code also might be slightly larger, 60. Manufacturer is okay also to have it less, 35. Okay, so this change is applied to a part list format. And as you can see, I have a quote part list format. That is, let me spend a few time here. I want in my quote the item ID, the quantity, the manufacturer, the model code, and I want the list price and assembly cost. This is a custom generated part list format, and you can create as many part list format as you want by selecting any attribute from the library, either model properties or design requirements. And you can select if it has header or not, the sorting top down or bottom up, whatever you want. Down here, it's the important thing I want to show you now. I have a template that is just a small example of template we'll see in a minute. So in this case, when I export to Excel my quote, it will fill in a standard template with some formulas, and I will start filling from the first column and the sixth row. And all the part list in my, if you imagine the Excel sheet made of different columns and row, the parts will start from 1, 6, sixth row and first column. And I'll show you in a minute how it works. So from the HyDraw options part list, this is where you control the settings that you want in the part list. These settings that you make are applicable to your HyDraw CAD setup. They will not be shared with any other unless you share the settings of your HyDraw CAD setup. Okay, let's say that I click OK. So now I want to recreate my part list because I added the headers on top. But let's first collect pricing to this diagram. So I show you later the Excel file, but first let me show you how it works. I had explained how to configure the update from Excel during my last webinar for Library Manager. This is how it works practically. Update from Excel. I select my diagram, the entire diagram. I press Enter, and I select to include all. Now, HyDraw CAD has found immediately some model codes that are present in my Excel file. So those are immediately recognized. Select means that HyDraw CAD was not able to find a matching, 100% matching from the Excel list. So for instance, RV1020, I can select, and in my Excel file, I can see a lot of items. So I can see also the stock because it's an attribute. So don't care about the list price. This is really randomly generated numbers. Those are not making any sense. And you can select an item. You see the list price and the assembly cost and the stock, how many you have, and also a part number. Everything here is not realistic. It's just a randomly generated number. Okay. In blue, light blue, it means that it is going also to fix the model code. So if you remember, it was RV1020 double star. Now this will become RV1020B0V and whatsoever. So the interface with Excel is also able to correct and give a good model code and part number to items that you have maybe generally defined in the diagram. We do the same here. We have a strainer from HYDAC, and let's see if I have, sorry, in my Excel list, I don't have the Parker price, so let's leave it blank. I should have a HYDAC part number, and the check valve I have, and the manifold, this is not available, so let's not, let's see, I have a pister component. Okay, when you are done with this matching, you can update all. And now HyDraw CAD is taking the information from the Excel file and attaching to the component. So if I go here, I will see that I have my list price, 81.01. This, and I also have a part number and I have an assembly cost. This information was not in the library, was not in Fluid Power Tools, and was not anywhere except in this Excel file that you'll see in a minute. And you could generate this Excel file with your ERP system. So it's just a big table of, in this case, it's about 5 model codes. So model code, manufacturer, part number, price, assembly, stock, and you could have different attributes, and it is possible to match attributes with the corresponding attributes in the library. So as you can see, really, we speak about 5,600 components. Okay, now let me build again the part list. I forgot. I removed, but I want to have it. I'm sorry, I need to have all the items, parts. A shortcut to select all the items is to type all with a keyboard, all. It will select every entity in the diagram. Next, and we can place our part list in the drawing, and that's okay. Also now I want to do again YPA to run again the part list. I select all, And now I want to select the quote and next. And now my part list is showing the assembly cost, and so let's fill in. Let's say that the manifold will cost 500 euros, dollars, whatever it is, and the assembly will be 50. And the assembly cost for the KTR, let's say that's €1, €1, and the D1VW it's 67 euros, and the assembly cost will be 5 euros. I may not need to update in the diagram, although you could. I can export this part list with pricing information to an Excel file. Now HyDraw CAD is asking me where I want to save my file, and I will go to my 2020 webinar HyDraw CAD, and that's my quote. Let's open and see how it looks like. Let's find it. Quote XLS. So this is just a template quote number. That's in US dollars, and I can change discounts. Let's say 50%, 10%, and it is made with formulas. I have the number, the price, and the assembly cost. And as you can see, you can fill practically any information. So you just select which attribute you want to bring in, and then you can prepare a part list of your items. Then we need also to give the diagram to our customer. Together with the part list, we want also to give the diagram. So since we started with a good template, now I want to publish it into a PDF. So let me save my diagram. So if you wanted to publish 3 pages, like in this case 3 layout, directly in one document, the good way is to use the publish option. Well, you can use the print batch plot. With batch plot, you have this dialog, and you can select which sheets you want in the same PDF. So I don't need the model space. I will remove it. And actually, you could put in the same PDF different sheets from different diagrams. That's not a problem. You can just add different sheets from other diagrams. At the end of the selection, you can just click Publish, and you save this document. Well, first, on top here, I have selected I want a PDF. Otherwise, it could be a DWF, DWFX. Normally, we do a PDF. And that's it, publish. And I want to save to my HyDraw CAD December webinar. So this is where really this folder is handy. And that's my circuit, and I can select and save. I don't need to save this list of sheets. And now I am generating the PDF. Let's go to that folder. And the PDF is still in process. Yes, it's here. And let's go here, and we find the circuit, and we can see our PDF. H options. When you use the publish, go to the plot and publish, and uncheck this. No, don't use the background plot. Apply. This will make easier, and it will plot faster. And so we can do again the print, a batch plot. Again, we do the same, publish, and we save overwrite. Yes, no, and yes, it made much faster. So yesterday I was playing with my settings, so I'm sorry for this delay. Now this will be okay. So as you can see, this is my first page. I have the second page. I have the third page with my part list. And each diagram, each part of the diagram, you can search for items. So like 3 by 4, it is finding. So each text is is indexed. It's using font, and so you can find the text in the diagram.